Welcome to the Philip Wiley Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Philip Wiley.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Philip Wiley Show. I'm very happy to have Cheryl, my friend from Canada, joining. Trying to think of how many Canadians I've had on my podcast on the new one. I guess maybe you're the first because Julian was on. He was on my podcast a while back. So on my older podcast, I had Tanya Janka on. So
awesome.
Great to have you joining.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, those are some great fellow Canadians, and hopefully we'll keep introducing you to more of the same.
It's good because when I went to Atlantic Security Conference, I remember seeing there because I knew you and Julian, and of course Chloe Mustagi was there. We knew each other, but there weren't that many people I knew, and I thought I need more Canadian friends.
Everybody needs more Canadian friends. I'd say that's a good thought.
Yeah. And several people, including yourself, helped me out with that, introduced me to some other Canadians. So my Canadian friend list is growing. Oh, I forgot to mention also, I had someone else on here as well that her episode hasn't went up yet. I'm trying to remember her name. She was the woman that did the very cool talk on the malware analysis where she reverse engineered. I
know who you mean.
Yeah, it's Lily.
Yes.
So
somebody with cool origin story there too.
So the first season of this podcast, I've already had 3 Canadians on. So good. we need to increase that so we can get more Canadian listeners too. So
that's a plan.
So how is your fall going? I guess where are we in fall? Almost not quite to fall yet. I guess getting closer.
Close enough now that summer vacay is over for people and kids are back in school, and it's gray and chilly and dreary here. So it definitely feels like fall.
Yeah, close enough you can smell the pumpkin spice.
Absolutely.
but it's
pumpkin
crazy.
Spice everything.
Yeah, it's crazy these seasons how things keep creeping up closer. Because I know, like here in the U.S., you'll go into stores. And months before they should be putting stuff out, you got Christmas stuff up before Halloween.
Listen, I could do Halloween all year long, so I'm just holding myself back. I'm trying to wait till the last week of September before I start putting out all of the things. But
very cool.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, my daughter's a big fan of Halloween. She's actually trying to get married on Halloween, but wasn't quite able to get the facility close enough. But she's wanting to get married on Halloween, so she'll have some Halloween theme type stuff for her wedding.
I love it. That's so excellent. Yeah. Even if it's not right on Halloween, having the theme is great. I did a presentation and it was falling right around the date of Halloween. And so I just went to town with the format. It was all haunted pumpkins and Halloween motif the whole way through. And it was, I'm presenting this scary story about, botnets, etc. It was so much fun.
So you really decorate up for Halloween at your home?
Oh, absolutely. me and the cats, but we will have a ball. So any of the trick-or-treaters, they won't be disappointed.
Yeah, very cool. So before we get started, I guess I might as well have you introduce yourself for the folks that may be new to the cybersecurity scene.
Sure. So I'm Cheryl Biswas. My Twitter handle is encrypted in leet speak, so you'll find it easily enough. And I work in cyber threat intelligence, which is my passion. I love it. I discovered this some years ago and was like, wait a minute, there's an intersection between political science, which is what my university degree was in, and technology. And then this happens when these collide. Whoa. And it all came from there. So I get to do that with currently working with a big bank and protecting it against cybercrime, state-sponsored adversaries, staying abreast of what's happening with developments in AI and malware trends, but keeping a bigger picture look on how there's a ripple effect from external causes that influence behaviors.
Very cool. That's one of the areas too for anyone listening that's looking for different jobs. You know, a lot of people see pen testing and they want to be hackers, but you know, cyber threat intelligence and threat hunting, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there you can do besides just pen testing.
Absolutely. When I think of it, I think of when I grow up, I'd like to reverse engineer malware because it's just so cool, and getting to understand how to stage and build attacks and the components of taking the malware. It all started for me with reading the story of Stuxnet. And I've joked, my kids are grown, but I joked that I read it to them as a bedtime story, and I swear to God, I actually did. I didn't get too far. They fell asleep, but it's just this fascinating. Well, read the book. Kim Zetter wrote the book, Countdown to Zero Day. And that is just how this can happen, and all of the parties involved, and that you really want to be looking back historically for context, and layers upon layers upon layers, being able to just write this code, then wrap it up in a wrapper, but it's encrypted, but then the other wrappers are multi-stage. It's the ultimate puzzle.
Very cool. So if someone wanted to get into threat intelligence, how would you recommend that they learn that area?
Start with curiosity, and just you're always aware of what's going on, and you're asking how, when, why. You a background and an interest. Historical context really informs this. Politics and economics are also important. If you're fascinated by crime, organized crime, that is a huge component of this as well, because you're chasing thieves. It's cat and mouse often, and what you want to be able to do, you're you're hunting the bad guy. Really, you're looking for the tracks and following them, seeking out the breadcrumbs that they leave. You get to be the detective. So if you are a problem solver and into being a detective by nature, this is a very good field for you. And you are really good at being able to analyze. This is analysis. You take pieces of information and you connect them. You see where they are leading to. You do extrapolation based on this, what's likely to happen as a result. And you are very good at being able to look for the patterns. This is so important in the work we do overall, but especially in this field, because things repeat. And I will tell you, the bad guys are extremely efficient. They make money. They don't spend it. So if something works, they will repeat it, and they'll pull out tried and true exploits. They'll keep hitting on the same vulnerabilities because they know that human nature and corporate tendencies, things don't get patched fast enough. And that's all of the stuff that we work from and try to put together. And it is never boring, I will tell you.
I bet. And that's some really some of the good information to know. Like when you're going through job interviews, there's times I wished I knew more about threat intelligence, because you have a better idea of current events and how those things are affected. And some of the interviews you get during questions you get during job interviews is sometimes people asking about some of the most current events. What did they use to gain a foothold and so forth?
Exactly. Of course, I mean, everybody's familiar now with ransomware, but I came onto the scene. I guess it would help if I started with a very brief origin story. So I got into this field as I came back to the workforce after being a mom at home for 10 years. And so you start at the bottom. It doesn't matter. And I joined a very small managed services firm, guys in a basement with servers. I loved it. It was like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you guys. And they weren't afraid of me, and I was not afraid of them. And the sound of servers in the morning is good stuff. So I was reading through the inbox, and I was seeing newsletters from various companies like Kaspersky, and they would do these write-ups. And that's where I discovered this combination of current events and what I'd studied in political science and the intersection with technology. And the more I read, the more fascinated I was. Well, they handed me the Twitter and LinkedIn profiles, which Twitter had 0 followers. And they said, please do something with this. So I jumped in and started looking, what should we follow, and picked what looked like likely candidates, all the different, started with the security companies and a few technology companies, and just read through it. I wasn't really on Twitter at that time, but as I read through these particular feeds, it was all about stuff I was very interested in. And one thing you read led to another thing you could read, led to people who were voicing opinions. And I discovered you could contribute, you could ask questions, and people didn't look at you like you were, what are you asking? Why are you asking that? They actually wanted to answer your questions. They encouraged you to share your viewpoint. And I think for a lot of us, that's really important. there's a lot of really weird and wonderful people in this field. It's a home for us. We're not like the others, but it's in a really good way. And that curiosity and that different insight is what helps us accomplish so much. And that's what I was discovering in Twitter. And from there, I was able to go to my first HackerCon. I made friends, and they said, you should come here. So I went to the US Midwest, to Circle City Con. And we call it Hacker Family for a reason. And that is what it was. It's just this whole collection of people who many of whom have known each other for years. But here I was, literally middle-aged mom, not a tattoo, not a piercing in sight. And I was made to feel so welcome. And I fell in love. And that was it. That just opened the floodgates. Then my friends encouraged me to submit a talk. Besides, Las Vegas does this wonderful thing called Proving Ground. People who've never spoken before can submit a talk, and then they get mentored so that they can actually deliver it. That is how you get to do this. You get mentors and you get the coaching. And somebody great did that with me. I got to work actually with Phil Young. He goes as Mainframed 777. He's one of the Beastie Boys who like to hack mainframes. He and Big Indian Smalls have great stories of how do you hack a mainframe, and holy cow, I can't recommend that enough. But that was what opened the floodgates for me. And I did a little talk on BYOD and how people were, sneaking it past the networks, and that is still a huge problem. But that got me down to Vegas, and I was really light on cash, so I crashed in a friend's room, and I took volunteer shifts to earn some meals and be able to get a badge in. And that also enabled me to cover the cost of my very first DEF CON badge. And I was like a kid in Candyland, really just seeing everything. It's amazing. For me, it was amazing the first time. I had a couple of people that I had met that were with me. The crowds are enormous. Yes. You are better off to be with at least a couple of people that you know, and just take it in bite-sized pieces. But it was everything and more, and just really lit the fires. And that's how I got in, and then kept coming back for more, as they say. And my little stint at the at managed service provider, I set up a security section for them, and then moved on to becoming a security consultant with one of the big 4 auditing firms. A friend of mine said, all right, I'm over here. Give me a resume. Damn it. So I sent it in. The next thing I know, I'm having an interview. The next thing I know, I came in for an interview. We had a really good talk, and they hired me. I'm like, really? Okay, awesome. And I got to learn and grow with some people. I made some very good friends there, and I got to do. We worked in the little lab section that was closed off from the rest of everybody who was in cubicles and open sections, because found myself attached to the red teamers and the digital forensics guys. So cool. I loved it. And so we would go do physical red teaming. and if you've ever followed social engineering villages and seen the contests, then this is where you pretend. It's like on the movies. You pretend to be somebody you're not, and you are convincing them to let you do something that you absolutely should not be doing. So, gaining access to things like server rooms. I I once had to make my way through a card entry building and without a card and get access to every floor, including the server floor. Let me tell you how effective a box of donuts, 2 boxes of donuts actually really are. They'll get you in every time. And those are just some of the really great moments and experiences that I get to build on. I'm not a social engineer by nature. I think it is a really great skill to develop and have awareness of. There are natural born people in this field. Elise Dennis is a phenomenal person to learn from. So is Snow, and anything you can read up from them. So is Jenny Radcliffe, who has written a book on the subject. So there are some great people to learn from, but I'll just tell you from my very amateur experience, it's exciting and scary and fun all at the same time.
Very cool. Actually, I had Snow on a panel that I did for Bug Crowd back at the 2019 during the 2019 DEF CON. They have a hospitality suite, and I did a panel version of the webinar series I was doing for Bug Crowd at the time. I had Snow, I had Ian on there, and then a couple other folks that I kind of knew. One from the Dallas community, and another one that I met when I first started going through the OSCP certification. But it was a pretty cool panel. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'm so happy to know them, to have been able to, just have conversations with them. And that's something else, is like the people that I have been fortunate enough to meet are really welcoming. They're willing to talk to somebody who has very little experience and who's got questions, and to just share what they know.
Yeah, that's some good advice, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, so we can kind of discuss. You were talking about conferences and stuff, but one of the things I've always shared with anyone I mentor, if I'm speaking at a conference, when it's something career based, I always try to encourage people to become, get involved in the community, to build your network. And just as you mentioned, how you were encouraged to join the Big Four firm, and you got your foot in the door. There's networking, and a lot of other people that are listening. These are opportunities that may be more difficult otherwise, but if you know someone on the inside, it makes it easier to get the job.
Absolutely. It's okay to ask somebody, ask them, have a conversation with them instead of hitting them up hard or as a cold ask. Build that rapport somewhat, so that they know who you are and what your abilities are and what your interests are, to then better represent you. We really, I got here because somebody helped me, and for me, it's all about who can I lift up along my journey as I proceed forward. The more people we get to take along with us, the better a journey it is.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing that's good too is when you're helping people like that, then you're kind of encouraging other people to do that, because this is something we need. Society is not always the most positive, but when you can kind of display the positivity and kind of help, it's kind of contagious.
It is, absolutely. And that's another part of my story. Is I'm one of the founding members of an organization called the Diana Initiative. And it started from very humble origins. Literally, a group of us women were sitting at the food court in Bally's on the last day of DEF CON, just exchanging stories and views and saying, this is so nice. Could we just do this again? How could we set it up to do this again? Because it was an oasis in the midst of all the stuff that was going on. And we found a way to create that oasis. And we wanted it to be a place that encouraged not just women, but people who are underrepresented, thinking of minorities, thinking of all the people within our area, LGBTQ, all the people who are neurodivergent, and just have the place where they are welcomed and encouraged and recognized to share their ideas, because we all have not just questions, but we have ideas. And it's so exciting if somebody actually wants to hear you talk, just let you give voice. And that's how you grow, but that's also how the rest of us grow. It's that exchange of information. So we've built an annual event that happens in conjunction with Hacker Summer Camp. And you can follow, it's diana.org, dianainitiative.org, and you can just follow it on Twitter as well and keep up to date. It's got a different sites that you can visit, places you can join online, and a Discord channel. But there are so many happy stories of people who came there for their first time, and then they made friends, or they networked and they got a job, or they were fresh out of college and they just needed some guidance. Every person that we're able to help find an answer, or, give a push forward, give some kind of a connection to, is a big win. And that's how we draw a bigger circle. When we widen this community, we take in ideas that we never even considered that will become something of meaning further down the line. And then we all benefit.
So what are some of the organizations you'd recommend people be associated with to help with their careers and to connect and network with others?
Oh, wow. I would start anything in the security B-sides community. There's so many of those, and they are small and welcoming and local. They're a good way to get started. You can look for, there are the DC groups, the DEF CON groups, many locales as well. There are a variety of women in cyber organizations like Diana Initiative, but also WESIS is another one. Cyberjutsu, big organization as well. And I don't mean to leave anybody off. Just my brain has holes in it, so if I haven't mentioned you, it's just because I'm thinking on the spot. But once you see one of these organizations, you will see others named in it as well, and it's very easy to just follow those linkages and be able to get connected to your local organizations, and start small, because it's more welcoming. Some of the there are a few bigger or mid-sized hacker cons regionally that you can check into. It just depends where you are. So yes, there's ShmooCon, which is in DC, which is usually around January. There's in Canada, we have Hackfest coming up. That's in Quebec. There's NorthSec. That's in usually around June. But those kinds of events, you can again just take a look and see what comes up if you just Google them. And people that you're following on social media, or if you're not following people, that is another good place to start. Twitter used to be a good place to follow people. There's still a lot of us on there. We haven't completely removed ourselves, but there's Mastodon has many good voices in it to link up to and see what's going on. And I think there's also Blue Sky for some people, but that I don't know as much about that. And LinkedIn, there's a lot of presence on LinkedIn as well. I will be happy to answer questions if I can help somebody. and just point you in a friendly direction.
And so one of the things, you're a person that does, this really big on volunteering. How can this help someone that's just starting out? What are some of the benefits of being a volunteer at conferences?
Oh, first of all, you get you get into conversations with people just through the course of volunteering. That opens the doors. You get to relax and exchange ideas, and through that interaction of putting stuff up, taking stuff down, laughing, now you've become friends. You're talking about, well, what did you do? Where did you go to school, or where do you work at? That's how volunteering helps. It creates these kinds of conversations where somebody starts to know you, and then they may very well be able to answer your questions or make recommendations for where you could be interested in applying to. But it's because they know you, because you showed up and you helped out. And that's really the thing. You showed up and you helped out. That counts for a lot. That's good currency.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see some of the experiences I've seen from people volunteering. When I was teaching at the college here in Dallas, one of the colleges, I used to recommend my students, go to conferences or volunteer. And it's really interesting that if you volunteer for like a B-sides just for that year, that particular B-sides, the number of months, to prepare for that and actually, be on site volunteering the day of the conference, it seems like those students experienced within a month or maybe two that they got the networking equivalency of probably what would have taken a year, that would have taken a year or two otherwise.
Yes, there are so many different things you can do. One of the things I did a lot was speaker ops. So you get to talk to these people who are giving talks. They are happy to share their ideas. You get to see them practice. You help them get set up with audio visual. So you're learning that end of things, but you're also meeting people who make a difference through the information they share. They're often considered experts in their fields. And really, the ones I've met have been very, very appreciative of the people who are volunteers, and more than willing to have a quick conversation or answer questions after they've given their talk, or in the course, when they're just relaxing in the green room and trying to get themselves together. It's a wonderful opportunity for somebody who's new to meet a whole range of people that you may never normally get the chance to meet. You just see them on a headline somewhere. And that through that the types of volunteers that they need, you can develop other skill sets that would make you useful at other conferences and expand your abilities to network. They also, from the most part, that from what I've experienced, they take really good care of their volunteers. You get to have a meal. You get your badge to attend, so you can actually listen in on some of these talks and enjoy the event. And that's great if you are on a tight budget.
And one of the nice things too, you mentioned some of the people that get opportunities to speak to. I know some people are kind of shy and introverted, but one of the things it does is it gives you an excuse to talk to someone. If you're doing something as a volunteer, it
Yeah.
gives you a reason, because I just met someone recently that saw me at Wild West Hacking Fest and said they saw me, they would like to meet me, but that it would have felt awkward just coming up. So if you're that type of person, if you're volunteering, it's kind of giving you an excuse to talk to people.
It absolutely does. That's when I wanted to mention Wild West Hacking Fest. I haven't been there, but there's some great stuff that happens out of that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really love DEF CON, but it's so huge. It's hard to meet up with everyone and find everyone. So like the Atlantic Security Conference, I had a good time there. Wild West Hacking Fest. It's just some of those conferences that you see a lot of the people you want to see, and it's easier to find them. You're not having to filter through tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, it's a big difference if you're working with 2,000, 2,500 people or less. You can meet up. And we talk about LobbyCon, but LobbyCon is really the main event at these. Most of the time, talks are recorded. I follow the caveat of, if I know who's giving that talk, I want to be right there in the front row, smiling up at them and giving them all that, positive encouragement. It's really nice to have a friendly face right there in the audience. Otherwise, you can get these and watch them later, but you can sit somewhere, anywhere at these conferences because you've met people and started a conversation. And I'm not lying. Often these will extend to 3 or 4 hours, and a group of 3 people will become a group of 5, will become a group of 10, and you're meeting the connections of these people. And that is extraordinary. And the topics run the gamut, like anything and everything. You will be exposed to people who do social engineering, who work in critical infrastructure, who build malware, who do pen testing, who do governance, who work for the government. You can't talk about stuff, but they're there anyway. You meet lawyers. This is how you get to meet some of the coolest, greatest people.
Yeah, I agree. So we're getting down towards the end of the episode. Is there anything you'd like to share before we end?
Sure. I would say to anybody, one of the big things for me this year was taking care of yourself. Take a moment and assess how you are doing, and don't push yourself past your limits, because mental health is a real deal. So it's okay to step back. If you think that is going to be to your benefit to press pause, absolutely do it. Those conferences will wait, but your health won't. And you matter. You matter more than you give yourself credit for. And the other thing is the importance of taking care of our teams and our workplaces. It's been a really, really rough year with the layoffs. And we are lucky. I know I am. I am very lucky to have the team that I am part of. And the way that we can just make a difference with a kind word, or stopping and asking somebody how they're doing and just letting them speak and hearing them, can go farther than you realize. And be curious. Be confident in yourself, because you are enough and you have what it takes. You have absolutely got something to bring to this table. And I would be very happy to see you one day giving that talk. I encourage you to go for it.
Great advice. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. It was great to finally get you scheduled and on. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Yeah, same here. I look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to The Philip Wiley Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Philip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Philip Wiley. Until next time.